getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 9 of this season, coming to you today from the Chicago Street Circuit. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the broadcast booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, this is not the first time that the Spec Racer Fords have shown up here, as they were here just one season ago, but this track is still an oddity. It has gone the way of the Dodo Bird in real life, being replaced by the brand new Coronado Street Circuit this upcoming year for the NASCAR season. But this track always had kind of an odd soft spot in my heart, even though when it was initially announced, I absolutely hated it.
I mean, obviously, I did not get a chance to participate in the broadcast for the last season, but sorry about that, as my computer just blinks out of existence. I did not get to participate last year, so it's something new for me, but I'm looking forward to it, as I will pass it back to you and try and get everything sorted out here.
Yeah, this would be terrible comedic timing for me to have a computer blue screen myself. But yeah, looking forward to this race. It's going to be fun, and keeping our fingers crossed that we keep the technical blips down to a minimum. This is a tough racetrack, though. Very technical. That would have probably been the other right segue for me to try and use. But we're going to have a good time here. And this is not the first time that we have been here this weekend here on SMB, as about 24 hours ago. Our producer, Mr. Guido Marzucchi, is able to grab the victory in the Formula V Weekend Warriors race. So after that, I'm expecting a little bit of craziness, maybe a little bit of chaos, but only time will tell what kind of racing action we have here today. I do want to give some love to a newcomer before we head off too much into this session. Rupesh Paineni, newcomer to the series, the Indian behind the wheel of the 219 machine, currently qualified second here in this race. So nice to see some new blood come into this series at a track that isn't that popular. It is not part of base content, even though it is no longer a track that I believe will ever return into real life existence unless IndyCar decided to run here, which, let's face it won't be the craziest IndyCar street circuit announcement that has come out this year. But this is going to be quite cool to see these racers run around a track that's a bit less popular in the road circuit world, primarily just used by the people who run the other NASCAR circuit here on iRacing. 7 minutes left to go in qualifying, so let's take a quick look at our championship point standings heading off into this race, because we are getting into crunch time in this season. Time flies when you're having fun. We'll start off with our Spec 1 points, where Ian Joyner is the clear championship favorite, although he will not be here tonight, as will a couple of other familiar names that we've got here in this series. So maybe a tough road ahead for those competitors here today. Nathaniel Schramm is, though, so that's going to help him. And the points, he's currently slotted in 4th. In front of him is your reigning champion of Kane Halliburton, with Jason Green slotted in P2. Nice under the radar season, I would say, from JG2. Alexander Gorson, Dirk Braun, Felix Samos, Jason Dunnington, Aleix Pleva, and Barrett Brummett round out your top 10 in the Spec 1 points. We'll take a look now at Spec 2. Take a gander, if you would, with Scott Russell in the 222 car holding on to the championship points lead. It is a margin between himself and Richard Harwood, but not the biggest in the world. Only 38 points between your top two in the Spec 2 point standings, and you only have to go a little bit farther back to find Matt Thompson slotted in 3rd. Not too far behind him is Paul Jackson in 4th. Steve Saunders, only 6 back, rounds out your top 5, with Phil Berry, Kevin Adrian, Hugh Simpkins, Marcel Gorson, and Jeffrey Adkins rounding out your top 10 in Spec 2. Now we take a look at the Masters category, where Brad Cathcart is leading over there. Jörg Monty is slotted in 2nd, with Rich Meesters in 3rd. Chris Thorpe, Antonio Reese, Adam Bradshaw, Chris Murakami, Andrew Love, Tom Gradwell, and Jim Brewster complete your top 10 in the Masters points. So lots of different storylines to kind of sink our teeth into, Charles, compared to some of the other series that we have got here. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of championship battles that we have got. But let's get the show up, rocking and rolling by doing our onboard lap with Christoph van Langendonk as he adds his way down the start-finish stretch into turn number 1. Now, turn 1 and 6, completely mirrored, literally and figuratively, because you've got that outside barrier, which is the same outside barrier that turn number 6 has. Turn 2, though, was a real trouble spot in the Formula V race, and you can see from the tire marks and the wall scrape from Langendonk that that's going to be the same case here today. Now, though, you're starting to build up momentum, heading off through the quick kink of turn number 3. Real good spot to maybe try and get a move done. Shane Van Gisbergen in his NASCAR Cup Series debut was able to get a move done through here. This is meet shoot, as we like to call it here in the Weekend Warriors world. Heading your way onto the back straightaway through 4 and 5, some clanks against the wall ever still. This is going to be a race where if a driver goes into victory lane, they're probably going to have a couple of scrapes and dents on their car. They're not going to be factory fresh by the end of this. This is turn number 6, which, despite being kind of similar to turn 1, got a lot of bumps in the picture, including a bump right at the apex, which from my own experience really throws you off. But turn 7, this turn right here, is always the one that catches me at the most. Downhill braking zone, usually covered by a little bit of shadow, cold track conditions through there. Now, however, you're building up the speed and going through the quickest turns on the racetrack. 8 in through 9, through into 10 right now. Lots of bumps through here. It's a street circuit. You should probably expect that, but it's still going to throw these racers for a bit of a loop. Now cresting over the bridge into the final braking zone, the final turn, turn number 12, under the bridge. There's the pit entry. That's the main point of contention with that last turn. You've got that wall on the inside that chops off a big chunk of the racing surface. Gonna be real tricky to see how these racers manage it throughout the night. But while we still have a little bit of time before we get into the meat and potatoes of this qualifying session, I want to thank, as we have done throughout a vast majority of this season, Dirk Braun making this broadcast possible here on Slow Motion Broadcasting all season long. We've been able to make these broadcasts happen through generous sponsorship by Durkee's Dickles, because they know that every lap is hot and that consistency matters. No limp competition here, just serious crunch, undeniable girth, and performance that fills each jar. Whether you want mild, hot, or why the hell did I think I can handle that, they bring the heat and performance you can feel. Durkee's Dickles puts the tickle in your pickle. We'd like to thank Dirk Braun and Durkee's Dickles for sponsoring this season of Spec Racer 4 Weekend Warriors action, and perfect time after a little bit of technical wizardry to bring back my colleague here on the broadcast booth. Charles, welcome in. You came in right at the good time for me to do the Durkee's Dickles ad read.
It was perfect timing. I'm glad I did not miss that. So yeah, thanks for covering for me as I resolved my issues. I think we're back ready to go again. So let's get ready for this race. I am looking forward to this. Obviously, you mentioned Shane Van Gisbergen and the real NASCAR series here. This track it's a little strange. I'm trying well, Guido and you're saying it's bad. It's not great. Let's be fair. It's a pretty bland circuit. There's a couple little tricks involved in it, but it's not quite as bad as maybe the new Detroit Indy course street circuit. But it's still pretty bad. And there's a couple places here that'll catch a driver out, as you can see there with the straight line job going into the corner there from whoever that was, just Trenton Kramer. Shrimp. Okay, so looking forward to this. I'm glad I'm sorted out. I can see everything again, so life is good.
Yeah, and that interesting noise coming out of me was a direct reference to my thoughts on that brand new Detroit street circuit used by IndyCar. See, Belle Isle, I always saw was, it's a cool racetrack. You're racing around a park. It's got some character, even though it felt like it was built on top of a sinking swamp. The new Detroit street circuit, though, has all of the bumps, none of the good racing, none of the point of good chaos, and all of the corporate might that you would expect out of downtown Detroit driving around GM's headquarters. I say this as a GM guy myself. I would rather cut my hand open on a rusty spittoon than drive around that track for an extended period of time. It is super rough. This racetrack, though, I think there's a little bit of charm to it in an odd way. The NASCAR Cup Series, when they were racing here, put on some good racing for one very simple reason. The NASCAR Cup Series cars, even though NASCAR people say that the cars drive too good on road courses, I've driven those cars long enough. They still drive like an F1 car from the 1930s, which is an improvement over the previous generation of stock cars, which drove like F1 cars from the 1890s. Back when you would start and get to your destination that was 50 miles away in about 7 days.
Yeah, it's once again, it's not the greatest course, and I can understand why they went to something else. It's but we're going to race it here today, and we'll have some fun with it. Obviously, we love our spec racers out here, and so they're going to put on a good show. Yeah, and Pit in. Say something about the pit entry, says Guido. The pit entry is not great. I noticed there was a pretty sizable bump on pit lane. Can we get air with the cars on that if we carry enough speed? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
Oh, see, now I'm thinking about yesterday here on SMB when we had the Crash 'em Up Wreckfest after the Formula Vs. It was actually into the runoff area of turn number 3 when that all took place. But, there is some pretty significant and nasty bumps around here. I would love to see a driver get airborne. That would be pretty awesome to see. Fly into the fountain.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about post-race. That was exactly what my thought process was are we going to set some kind of Evel Knievel course set up here in the pit lane for our drivers, or have they found a different destination for the post-race? I guess we'll find out in about 40 minutes. So we'll stick around and we'll kind of watch the race, and then we'll wait for the festivities after.
Yeah, but I feel like it is oddly fitting that I've had to do these broadcasts with the Formula Vs just yesterday and the Spec Racer Fords here today. Of course, as I said right towards the top of the show, the NASCAR Street Circuit on the NASCAR Cup, O'Reilly, and Truck Series calendars, if my memory serves me correctly, moving off into San Diego. And as somebody from the city of Philadelphia, I have become quite acquainted with things going over to San Diego. If anyone gets that baseball reference, you you get a $10 Arby's gift certificate. Checkered flag out in qualifying. Nathaniel Schramm still holding on to the pole. Rupresh Pineri is currently slotted in P2. Your pole sitter in Spec 2 at the present moment. A comparatively small grid than what we usually see here in the Spec Racer Fords. This track is not part of base content. It's a NASCAR track. They're going to milk the NASCAR people for everything that they have. Slightly smaller grid, but still expecting some good action.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll wait for the grid to come up. I'll tell you what, Ron, since you covered for me, I'll go ahead and just do the entire grid. This will be nice and easy. It's only 22 cars. And you can have a sip of water while we get we call out the grid here. As I will say, moving to Coronado from Chicago seems like a pretty good deal. All right, let's do the grid here, and we'll get this pulled up. And as soon as Guido gets, there we go.
Here's the WD-40.
There we go. All right, Nate Schramm on pole. Rupesh Panini sitting outside of row 1 in P2. Jason Green is in third. Trenton Kramer in fourth. Christoph Langendock starts in P5. Philip Berry, Spec 2, pole sitter in P6. Josh Wilkie in 7th. Alexander Gorson in 8th. Scott Russell in 9th. Chris Murakami in 10th. Kevin Adrian in 11th. Rich Meesters in 12th. Rolling to the next page, 13th. We've got Matt Thompson in 13th, Steve Saunders in 14th, Jorg Monty in 15th, Tom Gradwell 16th, 17th is Antonio Reese, 18th is Chris Thorpe, Marcel Gorson starting in 19th, Jason Dunnington rounding out your top 20. The final two drivers are Paul Jackson and Jeff Jacobson. Rich Meesters is, I believe, our pole sitter for the Masters class. And Guido, now you can tell me what you were trying to tell me when I was talking. Oh, Rupesh is S2. Okay. Thank you very much. Rupesh S2 is the S2 pole sitter sitting on the outside of row 1. He keeps doing that, and he won't be the S2 pole sitter much longer. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. That's a pretty good, impressive performance for a newcomer as well. And thank you, Charles, for running through the whole starting grid. I still think the worst mistake I ever made was. It's a couple of seasons, probably a year ago at this point, actually. It was back when everybody's favorite meowing part of the Air Force, now a technical sergeant in the Air Force as well. Congrats, Adam. Mr. Thompson was in the booth at the time, and I decided to go through the entire 56-car starting grid at summit points. Thank God we had a full pace lap. Otherwise, my tongue would have either gotten wrapped around my teeth 16 times, or I would have just passed out on my bedroom floor. And that may have been my final ever broadcast out of God knows how many I ended up doing between then and now. But a smaller grid, but this track does pack a punch. So we'll have to see if the field packs a punch too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a smaller grid probably not a bad thing for this course. So, obviously not a lot of laps here for any of our drivers. So it's going to be interesting to see how they tackle it. They've obviously had last season to run some laps here, but this is not a course that's being used pretty much anywhere outside of NASCAR circles. So we'll keep an eye out, and we'll get 22 cars out on the grid, and we'll see how they fare.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that with 22 cars, we're not going to see a big stack-em-up wreck fest all through any of this lap. But this is going to be a fun one. I want to thank all of you tuning into this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. I swear I blink my eyes and I just see a mountain of messages in the YouTube chat. Always love to see that. Seeing the Schrammers as they always appear here in these broadcasts. Michelle Lynn in the YouTube chat as well, off the back of a pretty all right run in the Formula Vs outside of the final lap, which which I don't believe we ever caught a replay to see the falling anvil that came down on her, but I'll take the other blame for that either way. But 22 drivers set to grab the green flag as we get into the final third of this Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors season. Our usual championship favorites, at the very least in Spec 1, not here at the moment, so this is going to blow it open to maybe get a first-time winner here in Season 1 of 2026 as the field crests the hill and heads their way into the final turn. We're about to get the green flag rocking and rolling here for round number 9 of the season. It's a newcomer on the outside of our pole sitter of Nathaniel Schramm. The green flag flies and the drivers are on their way, and we're racing here in Grant Park. That's a good start from Schramm. Not an ideal start for Pagnini. He's going to try and hold on to the top spot as we see them heading our way off through turn number 1 and 2. It is still Schramm over Pagnini, over Kramer. Seeing some drivers running into some troubles a little bit farther in the back. That's Rich Meesters and Steve Saunders running into some trouble in their own right. Alexander Gorson also losing out on some time to Scott Russell as well. Jason Tunnington also running into trouble. Steve Saunders somehow picking up a slowdown penalty, which I'm not even sure was possible on a street circuit, but Nathaniel Schramm still leading, over Rupesh Paineri. Trent Kramer holding on to P3 at the moment. Josh Wilkie dropping down the running order. He has gone off the circuit as well. Not sure what the deal is for him, but he's run into some difficulties. We're running into some difficulties our own here on these broadcasts. We'll keep the action up and rolling and call it a radio style here at the present moment. Schramm holding on to the top spot, but Paineri, even after a pretty rough start, still holding on to second.
Yeah, so far, a pretty decent start. Like I said, a couple of little issues, but looks like everybody's still rolling. And so we'll continue the action and see what's going on here as I'm viciously trying to find a camera that works.
Yeah, so we'll kind of call this radio style. Thankfully, I do have the benefit as to having done a decent amount of production work here on SMB. So if push comes to shove, we will be able to pull all of the action for you here, folks. Oh, is that a driver sliding off in the back? A shot I just saw in my my own feed. That's Christoph van Langendonk with a slide off through the final turn. That's going to catch him out dearly. He will tow back to pit lane. Major damage on that car. Joshua Wilkie also coming into the pits as well at the end of this first lap. Not sure what the deal was for him. Jörg Monty has also pulled into pit lane as well. Phil Berry running into some difficulties. Charles, we were expecting some chaos in lap 1, and chaos we most certainly got.
Yeah, it's once again, it's a little used track, so you expect a few little issues here with some of the drivers, and no surprise that we've had a couple, but honestly, pretty surprised that we haven't had more than that. But still got a nice battle up front here with Scott Russell and Antonio Reese working their way down, and Russell taking the advantage through the corner and is able to hang on. And I think we're back to live action here with Father Guido there.
And there we go. Problem taken care of. We're able to stay up to date on all of the action. We apologize for that brief little technical blip. That's a problem with Chicago. You think something's going to go right, and then everything goes wrong. Jörg Monty is currently being marked off as a race leader. However, I can tell you with the utmost confidence that that is not correct. I would be shocked if you could pull a 30-second lead in one lap on the Chicago street course, considering this lap is only about a minute and a half. Monty is not your race leader. That's Nathaniel Schramm. We have Rupesh Paineni right in tow, though. This has been a good start for the newcomer, leading in Spec 2 presently, holding on to second place. And a reminder to those tuning into this series for the very first time or who may have forgotten, we hand out the points not based off of class position, but off of overall position. So that P2 gonna mean the exact same to Paineni as it would for a Spec 1 racer. So that's a darn good drive for him right now.
Yep, that's a good start, and we're going to get a replay here. And this is Josh Wilkie, and we're on board here.
Oh, no.
As we head down into the corner, misses the inside barrier, but carries too much speed, and just a spin around and a little bounce off of the wall. So, tough break there for Josh.
And that right there is turn number 6 playing out as it usually does. I mentioned the bad bump on the inside there. Now, full transparency, folks, the experience that I have running around this racetrack is not with a Spec Racer Ford or a Formula V. It's with something probably on the complete opposite end of the other motorsports spectrum. It's the Lotus 79, the old F1 car. Super quick. It's really fun to run around here. Kind of brings me back to my shifter kart days in an odd sense, just running at the limit of control, one mistake away from death, terrified for your life, and a upper body workout in the process. But turn number 6, heading through there is a horrendous bump, not only heading into the braking zone that causes it to be really choppy, especially in these SRFs. Then you've got the bump on the inside at the apex, no less. It's pretty much as if they just designed that turn to be everything that a race car does not want to do.
Yeah, exactly right. How can we make this as difficult as possible, but yet it's only a 90-degree corner? So that's what we'll do is we'll put some bumps there in the braking zone, and we'll put a wall that just kind of sticks out and it's going to grab you. We'll throw some tire barriers because that worked for Long Beach, so we'll do that. It's just not a corner made for a lot of different cars, especially NASCAR.
Yeah, but this track I still think has a bit of an odd charm. Now, I say this as somebody who finds odd charm in really bad hotels that he used to stay at in his karting days. The only thing that I would have a problem with if I stayed in a hotel is if my legs were itchy the next day, which only happened at a Quality Inn in Lincoln, Nebraska. As long as that didn't happen, I'd be good. And hopefully Quality Inn wasn't looking at a sponsorship opportunity here on SMB, because I may have just blown it. Jeff Jacobs with a spin heading out of turn number 1. Very easy mistake to make. Now, turn 1 feels like the widest turn on this racetrack, but with a wide turn, it does give you like a false sense of security in an odd way.
Yeah, and you could tell he just was trying to get back on throttle and hadn't quite completed the arc of the corner yet, and just lost the rear of the car. And I didn't quite see if he made it into the barrier, but I'm kind of looking down the list here. He's still out on the track, so if he did make it into the barrier, it looks like the car looks like it's okay. So it's looks like he'll be able to continue the race, albeit further down in P19. Still got a nice battle up here between Schramm, Panini, Trenton Kramer, Jason Green. It's good to see Trenton back. Haven't seen him in a while, so it's good to see him back out here racing with us.
And, I don't really talk too much about some of the other shenanigans that we get up to before we go live here on these broadcasts, doing sound checks and just a little jib-jab before we go on the air. Yeah, because, it usually gets a little bit silly. Good example today. I was going through an old book to try and find an old magazine that I grabbed onto back in 2021. It was an advertising magazine here in the city of Philadelphia, which had some gems, shall we say. But outside of that little jib-jab, earlier on, we noticed another one. Trenton Kramer, for some reason, in the iRacing session is just marked off as being named Kramer, not even Trenton, just Kramer, no first name. So nice to see that he is actually appearing as Trenton Kramer. Otherwise, it would be a little bit ambiguous. I think is probably the first time I've ever said that on the air.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, it is good to see him back. Good racer, obviously running in P3. So it's always good when we get some of that. It'd been nice to see him with the full field and see how well he could have done with, with the likes of some of the guys we've had over the past few weeks and seasons out there racing together. I know he's raced with a few of them, so I'm sure that it would have been a nice challenge for him. But it's good to see him out there, and he's, like I said, running P3. Still got 19 of our 22 on the 21 of our 22 on the lead lap. Only one out is our colleague, Mr. Josh Wilkie, deciding that Chicago is not his kind of town. And we'll continue on with the action here as Schramm is starting to stretch out a little bit of a gap.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Mr. Wilkie not enjoying his trip in the Windy City. Yeah, I always thought the Windy City was Lincoln, Nebraska, because I used to go out there for the SCCA Solo Nationals, and a light breeze out there is 30 miles an hour worth of wind. But I guess the more you know. Scott Russell holding on to P11 at the present moment. A little bit of damage on the front end of that race car. You can see the front clip a little bit askew, and the other front right tire sticking out a teeny tiny bit. I think both front tires are sticking out to some degree. Thankfully for him, however, this isn't the most straight line dependent racetrack in the world, and as we said a little bit earlier on, Charles, if a driver can win this race, or even finish this race for that matter, with no lick of damage on their car, I'll probably eat my own hair.
Yeah, that's it's going to be a tough ask for sure. As we're looking at Jason Green here, still running P4, so he's in that lead group, and they've stretched out quite a gap over P5. Kevin Adrian all the way like almost 10 seconds behind this lead pack, and Schramm say another fastest lap of the race with a 134.527, yeah, he's, oh wow, it's like the next closest one is Green, and that's 0.3, almost 0.4 down. So he is really putting the hammer to it.
Yes, again, the hammer down right now, trying to run through the garden at the moment here in this race. We look at Kevin Adrian, Chris Murakami, and Alexander Gorson in their own little battle here as well. Nice to see a battle with three different drivers from three different classes. Adrian, the Spec 2 driver in front of Murakami, your Masters leader, and Alexander Gorson currently holding on to P4 of the Spec 1 competitors, P7 overall here in this race. They're kind of in a pack all of their own, as they have to go 10 seconds farther up the road to find your leading group of cars. As here we go, Chris Murakami going for the move down the inside of Kevin Adrian into turn number 6, and it looks like he will be able to get that move done without any further issue, although Kevin Adrian look for it around the outside into turn number 7. That would be a gutsy move to try and go for, because turn 7 is probably the toughest turn on this track.
Yeah, absolutely. As that would be a very gutsy move indeed, but not quite done yet, as Adrian's dropped back a position to Chris Murakami, who's taken over 5th, Masters class leader. Adrian running in 6th, and he obviously is P2 and Spec 2. So they're continuing on here in this running, and Adrian doing what he can do to try and catch back up, but that group is still falling further back to the top 4, and actually 2nd through 4th are now falling further back to Schramm, as he's now got a 2.5 second lead.
Yeah, so Nathaniel Schramm has scrammed here at the start of this race. I'll see myself out. But yep. No, we're going to see this battle continue to get intense, and we're going to start to see that gap grow and grow as the time goes along. I wonder if Trent Kramer and Jason Green are maybe feeling a little bit stuck behind the newcomer, Painani, holding on to that P2 spot, as he has done pretty much ever since the drop of the green flag, and a little bit of a courtesy bump draft heading down into turn number 6. I said that the straight line flat out blasts of this circuit were not really long enough to bring drafting into the fold, but I do often forget just how strong the draft is here in these Spec Racer Fords. Yeah,
I mean, Trenton had a pretty good run there and chose not to make a move, and instead to just give the bumper to Rupesh there. Oh, as we got a collision, speaking of bumpers, that is Scott Russell and Marcel Gorson. Scott obviously getting the worst of that, as he's pop-tarted his front end as just kind of looks like Marcel may have been moved over to open the corner. Did not realize that Scott was there, and two made contact, and obviously Scott, I think, got the worst of that damage, as we're going to get another replay here. Yeah, just fighting. I mean, that was maybe some iRacing glue a little bit. We don't know, but it definitely looked like those guys weren't detaching themselves from each other. As Scott Russell has a meatball, Philip Berry has a black flag, so pit entry speeding. It just looked. He is in the pits, and that is going to be why speeding on pit entry. Guido said talk about pit entry, and so now we're talking about pit entry, and obviously it's a little difficult, because obviously Philip got wrong, and Phil's one of those guys that's been around forever, so he's going to know how to get in the pits properly.
Yeah, so a tough break for the both of those racers to get involved in that collision. Not the first bit of iRacing glue that we have seen this week either. Just yesterday, we had a pretty bad one with Brian Szynski and Dorme Toomey in the Formula V's getting stuck together, heading down the start-finish straightaway. There was probably about 5 feet of gap between those two cars as well, but they were dragging each other along down that start-finish straightaway into the barrier. Toomey was steered completely the opposite direction, but was still just being pulled along straight. I love iRacing. It's an absolutely fantastic service, but sometimes you see moments like that, and you are reminded of how far technology has come along. There are some small little bits of goofy goobery like that, but we have had more drama here as we take a look at Antonio Reese in the 914 car getting overtaken. I believe that's the other fight for second at the moment in the Masters category. It's Rich Meesters and Antonio Reese that had a little bit of battling. I will correct myself. It's third in the Masters category as Tom Gradwell is holding on to a fairly quiet P8 at the present moment. Oh, God. Good night, everybody.
Something involving Kramer. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No.
See, Trent Kramer down to P4. So maybe Green got let's see. He's all right. He's giving the bumper to Rupesh. And, just too late on that bump. And I think Rupesh was on the binders, and he was in mid bump, and just it's terrible. That's just a little bit of miscommunication, and maybe a little bit of Rupesh being a little new and an unfamiliar track. And there you see the damage, and Trenton will have a chance to get that fixed. He's still obviously in that lead group, kind of can just keep in touch there. Maybe stay behind Jason Green, keep the draft, keep the nose covered until he comes in for his pit stop, and he can take his fast repair and get that car fixed.
Unfortunate for Trent Kramer to have his front clip pop off like that. Even though this track isn't too strong in the draft, that's not going to help him out a lot. Will help him in terms of comfort. That is the optional air conditioning modification here in the Spec Racer Fords. And with that moment that we had with Mr. Thompson a few moments ago, good time to shill XSLR returning here to Slow Motion Broadcasting a little bit later on tonight. Brand number 18 of the season coming to you from somewhere. Sebring, there we go. Sebring, so that's good action to look forward to here on SMB, but we have got some action going on out there on the racetrack. I don't know why I sounded like I was 14 at the end of that sentence. Here we go. This is heading off into the opening series of turns. It's Kevin, Adrian, who are following right now, and Alexander Gorson right in tow. Adrian, sideways snap through the turn, and Gorson with nowhere to go.
No, and I think Gorson, I'm not sure that Gorson even touched him. It just kind of looked like Gorson was able to get on the brakes and get it stopped. We'll get another view here, see if there was contact made. But yeah, it was all Kevin. I think he caught the inside curb there, right up against the wall, unsettled the car. When he got back on the throttle, it just looped. So we'll see here. Yeah, just too much speed, and maybe if anything, the slightest of touches there, as Adrian was sideways, but then Adrian got his car got his car righted and held on to the spot. I guess that's one way of doing it. However, he does have a meatball, so he'll have to come in within the next 3 laps and get that car repaired. But we're at the halfway point of the race, so good enough time as any to come in and get the car fixed, as he has finally lost the front of that car. He's left that on the track somewhere. That'll be a souvenir for some young Chicago Utes later on in the day, and you'll see that on eBay tomorrow, so that'll be very cool.
It being Chicago, would that end up on eBay, Facebook Marketplace, or Craigslist? I gotta wonder now. Alexander Gorson has come into the pit lane himself, so the both of them coming down pit lane is Jason Green now trying to get a move done to jump his way up into P2 over Pineni, and that will be the spot for Jason Green. Commanding move off into turn number 3 through 4 onto the back straightaway right about now. But Kevin Adrian dropping down as well. He has to repair the major damage on that race car. Thankfully, these racers are allotted one fast repair, which will help them out. And I have a feeling those fast repairs will get used, because even in these battles that we've got right now for P3, still intense with Meesters and Reese, the both of those race cars looking quite dented. Kind of looks like
Yeah.
like if I went bald, that would be what my skull looks like.
Oh wow. Okay. So that's yeah. They've kind of been in contact with other objects on the track, whether that be the wall or a car. But yeah, you can see the damage on the front of Meester's car specifically. So yeah, it's a good chance to come in and get the car right and get all the sheet metal put back in the proper configuration. As we still watching this group here, as Green is now taking over P2, he's trying to stretch out, but I think this is one of those where what little bit of draft they have, even though the straightaways aren't that long, there's probably enough there to keep these cars pretty much locked up. So I think that these guys will be able to hang on. And once again, Trenton Kramer doing a great job just hanging on the back of this group. Obviously not going to be able to pull out and make a pass, but he's able to get enough draft off the car in front to stay with them until we get to the pit stop.
My parents used to have to put a pool noodle around the coffee table in the living room because I used to run into it when I was a toddler at full speed, whack my head right before I was about to get Easter photos taken, and then cry for the next hour and a half. Hey, some things change and others stay the same. That's why I have very bad memory. Nathaniel Schramm now building out to a nearly 7-second gap over Jason Green. We said that he was going to take that lead and run with it, and run with it he has. That's going to help him a lot in the other points as well. It's going to help out your top two in the championship standings. Now, Ian Joyner not being here, obviously the gap is going to go down quite a lot. Kane Halliburton has had a pretty all-right season in his own regard, just hasn't really been able to piece the wins together like he was able to last season. With him not showing up in this race, that may take him out of the championship fight. But Schramm and Green are going to make up a whole lot of points in their own respective Spec 1 championship battles just because they decided to show up here.
Yeah, absolutely. You get points for showing up and racing, and so it's so yeah. If you don't show up, you don't get any points. That's a guarantee. So if you get in here, at least you can get some, and every little bit helps in the championship battle. We got Scott Russell in the pits with a meatball flag. He is towed back to the pits. So we're going to get a replay here as we're heading down this long winding straightaway. The wall of meats is and he caught the inside of the wall of meats and ricocheted off to the outside of that's a very Long Beach-like maneuver. What do you think?
Yeah, that I have seen that play out way too many times on street circuits in the past. I'm trying to remember now. Tom Gradwell, he's going off the circuit. That's heading into turn number 2, I believe, and that's going to be big in the Masters category. Was just going to mention that he was closing up the gap to himself and Chris Murakami, but right as things were looking up, things are looking down once again. Here it is, riding on board with him off through turn number 1. Looks fine and good through here. Now, this is a tricky turn because it bottlenecks a lot. You can see how wide it is on entry. Yes. Just a huge lockup in there. Yeah. That was a major. I wonder if there was some sort of not a hardware, maybe a hardware. I mean, that was a huge lockup. It looked like he locked up all fours based off the way that car slid.
Yeah, it could have been a hardware failure. It almost looks like it maybe just was a little bit late on the brakes, and there's looked like particularly bumpy there. So it looked like when we had the onboard shot, it just kind of looked like the car was bouncing over a couple of bumps, and maybe that was what helped induce the lockup. Trenton Kramer in the pits, going to get his stop done here at the 22.5-minute mark, get his car fixed up and back out on the track.
Yeah, so this has been a tough nut to crack for everybody up and down the field. We have series veterans making mistakes. The newcomer, Painani, has had a pretty smooth day in his own right, but I probably just jinxed him. So So Rupesh, if you're apologizing, I deeply apologize. Welcome into the world of the Weekend Warriors. I've been giving out commentators jinxes now for the better part of about 2 years. Nathaniel Schramm, though, still dominant in this race, as we do have some racers coming down pit lane, Meesters, Bradwell, and Dunnington. Now, Charles, because of the chaos that we've seen thus far in this race, we haven't really gone to talk about the pitch strategy. This has the feeling of a race where everybody's going to be kind of united in when to come down pit lane. I'm not sure if we're going to see too many split strategies and too much divergence.
Yeah, I think you're right. This seems like one that the undercuts, just because of the nature of the track's not really going to work for you. You might get some clear air, but you still got to deal with a very, very tight course. There's not a lot, and we don't have a big, necessarily a big group today, so it's not like that there's a lot of side-by-side battling going on, although we're going to see one right here as we're on board there with Van Langendock getting that move done, and that's around that's that Gorson. So as we're on board there, and as Langendock now passing Dunnington, so yeah, that was Marcel Gorson that he was making that move around. So that pulls him up to P15 after a little bit of an issue earlier in the race. He's coming back very nicely as we're back on board here, and you see Green stretching the gap out just a little bit more, up to 0.8 of a second. Obviously, you're going to get a little bit of a draft there on that long straightaway, even though it's not quite straight. We'll get around the corner there. Is that turn 3 or 4? And we'll get another run. And so it's up to 8.5 tenths. Get to that 1 second mark. You may see Green just pull away once draft availability is done for Rupesh there, as Schramm has now got his lead up to 7.2 seconds. And it looks like he's still on it, not really letting up that much. He knows that he's got a pretty fast driver in the form of Jason Green behind him, so he can't really just kind of ease through some of these corners. He's going to have to really keep on it.
I just realized that Adam came into the booth and meowed as he was watching the Daytona 500 with a few people over in the Slow Motion Racing Discord server. Schramm in pit lane, drivers wrecking farther behind. That's Dunnington and Marcel Gorson that had a little bit of a tussle, and Gorson trying to back out of pit lane there. That's the problem with the pit stall here at this racetrack. The way pit lane is configured, really goofy entry, easy to just get punted into the pits, not even wanting to come down pit lane. It's given the race lead to Jason Green, though. Painani holding on to P2, but now we got to consider when these top racers are going to come down pit lane themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get a replay here. This is Green, and that's the wrong one. All right, so we're going to get this replay here. This is Dunnington coming out of the corner, heading down the front straight. Oh, and that's Gorson behind, making a little bit of contact with the wall as they make their way around the final. Is that the final corner? Yeah, and just so just blocking the track, and everybody diving forward.
Look at Schramm on the pit entry.
Wow, great move by Schramm. Is like, okay, now what? So I'm just going to split these guys. Hope they don't move. And they did not. So Schramm able to get to the pit stop, get to his pits, even though pit lane was about 2/3 blocked. There was just enough room for him to get through.
Holy Schramm. That was a good entry into the pit lane. Having to lock up the rears, pull the handbrake like a rally move. My gosh, that could have very well ended his race. I mean, he would have gone down pit lane anyways, but that type of contact, that probably would have slowed him down just enough to maybe drop out of the podium even. So thankfully for him, he avoided the barrier, avoided any contact with the cars around. We haven't seen a driver smack the pit attenuator yet, but I cannot rule that out in the slightest as we have our top two coming down pit lane, Jason Green and Rupesh Paineni. That's going to give the race lead to Chris Murakami in the Masters category if he decides to stay out. But think that he's actually going to stay out. So there we go. Yep. Chris Murakami going to jump into the race lead, but now we keep our eyes a little bit focused right behind to see Nathaniel Schramm coming onto the start-finish straightaway. He's going to overtake both Painani and Green, who have swapped spots. Jason Green has lost out on P2 to Painani. However, it was Painani with a farther down pit lane. Pit stall. Jason Green nearly spinning coming out of the pit lane himself. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Not sure what the deal was there for Painani. He was in front of him by quite a long ways and then ground to a halt and let him by.
Yeah, it's as we got a slow car. I think that's Paul Jackson there on the inside. As some of the faster cars work their way through. It's Kramer leading Antonio Reese, followed by Matt Thompson there. This is P4 through P6. They're just ahead of Painini. And so they're kind of splitting the difference between Painini and Jason Green. So they're kind of in the middle there. Reese and Thompson still yet to pit, haven't pitted yet. So we'll see what happens with them. Obviously, they'll lose a few spots, but still a nice battle there as Chris Murakami holds on to the lead about 3 seconds over Nate Schramm, with a pit stop still yet to come.
Yeah, so still plenty of time for craziness and shenanigans to break out between now and the end, but this has been a good one here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Hopefully all of you tuning into this broadcast have enjoyed watching the action just as much as we have enjoyed calling it. Looks like Schramm is on track for a win here in this race, but who's going to finish right behind is a real question that we've got on our hands. Chris Murakami has now come down pit lane from the race lead overall in the lead-in Masters, and Antonio Reese slotted second of those Masters competitors, going to come down pit lane to Matt Thompson. Going to follow them into the pits as well. And to touch up on that storyline involving Jason Green and Rupesh Paineni, looking at the pit stop times, I was a little bit worried when I saw Paineni get the jump that maybe he had a much shorter stop, because of course this series does require fuel strategy. You got to figure out how much fuel you need to make it to the very end, and we have seen drivers, both rookies and veterans of the Weekend Warriors world, make the mistake of either underfueling their car or overfueling. Loss of track position can mean everything, and certainly a loss of fuel can mean everything. That's why we have the Thompson Trophy here on SMB. So I was a little bit worried when I saw that swap of spots, and then I looked at the other pit lane times, and I saw that Paineni actually spent about 2 seconds, roughly 2 seconds, a little bit under that. It was a 15.95 second pit stop from Paineni versus Jason Green at 14.05. So a big difference there. That's allowed Paineni to drop down. But I may have to break away from the feed and try and figure out what happened there, because I saw him slow down even more. So I'm not sure if it was just odd positioning of the pit stalls or what the deal was there. But either way, Paineni has lost out on a boatload of time through the pit cycle.
He did indeed, and yeah. So the pit boxes are issued by qualifying position. Obviously, with Paineni being on P2, he got the second most furthest down pit lane, just behind Nate Schramm. So he had to overtake Jason Green in the pit lane to get to his box, and then Green, by virtue of the fact that he was just faster through his pit stop, was able to reassume that position. And it could have been, we saw Green with a little bit of a lockup there coming out, trying to get the car righted. There was traffic there. There's a car against the wall. And who is that? Is that Langendock? That's Van Langendock. And we're going to get a replay here as we're heading down into the corner. And nice and easy there. So we're going to switch back over to go into this right-hander. And just too much speed there. Backs it into the wall. And then noses it into the wall, and then resets back to the pits and clears that, because that obviously is basically the exit of the corner, and somebody would have eventually hit him, even though we've only got about 18 cars left on track. One of the other 17 would have nailed him eventually, sitting in that position.
Yeah, so as we saw that replay, I was taking a look back to see what the deal was with Green and Paineni, and I'll throw up my hands and say that, I don't know, maybe my broadcast booth has been filled with smoke coming off of a freshly lit pile of the devil's lettuce, but he just came down pit lane right in front of him. I misread the graphics. So that's on me. I apologize for that. There was no chicanery down pit lane. Bad moment there from Gorson, pancaking the outside wall. That's coming out of turn number 5, and he's got to lose out on a boatload of time because of that, maybe even a spot to Antonio Reese, as that was Trent Kramer with a sideways snap heading out of the final turn. And here's a shot that Paineni, the newcomer in Spec 2, will have to jump his way back onto the podium. He gets a move done.
Yeah. Just see it. Just too much. Losing the rear coming out of the final corner there. And we're going to get another replay here. And, yep, just losing it. Just too much speed. Couldn't handle it. And has to catch the car, and does. But gives Rupesh a chance to make the move around. But he's still there in tow range. So we'll see if Trenton can get things straightened back out. I did see also, there we go, Jorg Monty, Guido, read my mind. Jorg Monty's towed back to the pits as well. So we're going to get a replay here. We're making the run down. I think this is into 3. And we're going to into the wall of meats. Yeah, just car never turned straight into the tire barrier there at the end of the wall of meats. So end of the day for Jorg. He's already out. He's probably already out of the car, into the recliner. And with maybe pulling the feed up on YouTube.
You know, when this broadcasting stuff inevitably sends me into some sort of asylum of some kind, I'm just going to be there in a straitjacket, bibbling to myself, talking about the wall of meats and the meat shoots in about 20 years' time. So that's going to be a very fun scene to look forward to in 2048, 2046. Again, ahead of myself, that's 22 years. In the meantime, though, let's switch back to the racing. Nathaniel Schramm running away with it, and the main battle we've got out there on the racetrack is the one between Alexander Gorson and Antonio Reese. There's Schramm. I think the only sort of worries that he has at the moment is just the lap traffic farther up the road. Outside of that, as long as he can keep it out of the barriers, which is a heck of a lot easier said than done here, he'll be golden to try and grab the other golden here at Chicago. But the battle with Gorson and Antonio Reese is an interesting one. Now, both of those racers have had some odd things go on for them, and Gorson, kind of the latest racer of these two to run into difficulties, pancaked that wall. It was a pretty straight shot, but you know, any bit of wall contact is going to cause that car to start driving around like a pat of butter on a hot pan. So he's going to be sliding around quite a lot. Right as I say that, Antonio Reese nearly hits the wall himself. How are you going to tackle this if you are Antonio Reese? Are you going to just wait for any sort of drama go on and just kind of wait patiently behind? That's what I would do, at least.
Yeah. Ooh, there we go. That's not. That wasn't a straight shot. That was a corner into the. It was Marcel Gorson, and that was a corner into the inside barrier. Thunk. Just see the car losing the rear of the car. It just turns the nose in exactly where you don't want it, which is into the wall. And yeah, I think for Antonio, it's like he's not quite able to make up enough time. If he can get within the second, obviously there's enough draft here that he's going to start picking up a tenth and here and there. But even with under 4 minutes left, I don't know that's going to be enough. So it may just be just drive as hard as you can and hope that Gorson in front makes a mistake and you can capitalize on it. But he's already in a good spot. He's running 7th. He's 2nd in Masters, so he can he's going to get some good points out of this race. I think he's going to make up a few points on the leaders of the championship. So it's not necessarily the worst position to be in at this point for him.
Yeah, the only bad spot that he can be in right now is up against the wall. If he could just make it to the end, doesn't really matter what kind of position you're in, you should probably count that as an achievement. This has been a matter of survival of the fittest for these drivers, and not everybody has. Started off with 22 drivers. We've got 16 out there on the racetrack. Marcel Gorson just came down pit lane. He has a meatball flag. We'll see if he rejoins the racetrack or not. That's Trent Kramer with the wall smack coming out of 6. Along with that, we've got Jörg Mani out of this race, Christoph van Langendonk out of this race. Scott Russell is still in the session, although he still has a meatball flag. I don't believe he has taken that yet. Towed back to the pits. I think has just decided to call it a day. Phil Berry ran into some troubles early, along with Mr. Joshua Wilkie, who call him the filled-in snake pit at the zoo, because he really has not had a pit to hiss in.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So yeah, not a great day for Josh. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I would have thought that once that Kramer got his car repaired, he would have been a little bit quicker. But maybe he got into this mode of trying to nurse that car around and has been kind of screwed up his muscle memory a little bit there, where he's just now that the car's back to the way it should be, or he's one of those wall hits has done some steering damage, and now he's kind of fighting the car a bit. But it's a nice battle here between Meesters has done a good job to close down the gap to Matt Thompson up ahead, and this is Meesters running 3rd in the Masters, and he's going to make this very easy move around Matt Thompson there to take over P8 overall, and Thompson's just going to slot back in P9. Thompson obviously running P2 in the Spec 2 category, so he's having a good day as Meester's doing his best job of not hitting the wall there, but that was very close as he had to catch the car coming out of the corner. I think we'll be coming down to 1 to go this time by, if my math is right, and I think this is a pretty easy one to math out.
I think it may actually be very close as Shrem heads his way all through the final turn. Minute and a half lap times. Oh, Alexander Gorson has snapped around, and he's got to lose out 2 spots in one shot. Rich Meesters and Matt Thompson will both get a move put on him. Hearing that the other white flag was in the air, it was very close, though. I think it may have been a couple seconds to the good of Shrem. Can lift off. He may be golden here to grab the checkered flag, but it is going to be touch and go as to whether he does grab the checkered or the white this upcoming time by. In the meantime, Alexander Gorson, we ride on board with him and follow his perspective, heading off through 3 into 4 and 5. This section, one small mistake and you're done. And similar shades to what happened to him earlier, but instead of a pancake hands to the wall, he's going to hit with a front clip, have to try and get out of harm's way. And look at Rich Meesters nearly giving him the hip check.
Yeah, it was pretty close there, but Meesters and Matt Thompson able to get through, pick up that position. Gorson slots back down into P9. So good start to the race. Not necessarily the best ending of the race for Alexander, but he's going to end up with a top 10 and 4th in the Spec 1 class. So still not a terrible day in the grand scheme of things there. As we're watching Nate Shrem on his final lap of the race, and we'll watch him take a few more corners, and that'll be race over.
Yeah, so time running out. We're getting into crunch time. Nathaniel Schramm, who started this race from the pole position, we can never say that it was a set lock that he was going to win, but he kept his nose to the grindstone. Now works out well, and Schramm has got to come out of the city smelling like a bed of roses. Here's the win for Schramm. He's victorious in Chicago. Jason Green going to finish 11, nearly 12 seconds back of him in P2, with Rupesh Paineni, the newcomer, winning in Spec 2 and finishing this race on the final step of the overall podium. Fantastic performance from the newcomer out of India. Great drive from him. Great drive as well to Chris Murakami, who's well farther back. He is heading his way off through the second to last turn right now. This Masters category is always one that I like keeping tabs on. It's one of the more competitive, and here in the Spec Racer Fords at least, Charles, it's probably the most competitive Masters field out of the entirety of the Weekend Warriors world. So many different drivers that can win week in and week out. Murakami, one of the veterans in the Weekend Warriors world, and he gets a W here today.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Masters class is one of the most competitive, especially on the top end, with guys like Murakami and Reese and Jorg Monty and Rich Meesters and Gradwell and Thorpe and Cathcart and just a host of others. It's just a really stacked field, and it's fun to watch those guys race. But congrats to Schramm, and congrats to Jason Green for the P2. Welcome to Rupesh, and welcome back to Trenton Kramer. So Chris Murakami rounding out your top 5. So great race. Even with a small field, the course was tough, but these guys were able to overcome it and survive 40 minutes in a Spec Racer at Chicago Street Course.
Yeah, so great drive from everybody. Very well composed from the drop of the green through to the fall of the checkered, even with a little bit of craziness and drama throughout. They kept it clean for the most part. This was going to be a tough nut to crack for these competitors, but they dealt with the challenge as best as they could, and they were able to all come across the line. Well, most of them were. Now I'm waiting to see what sort of crashing shenanigans we've got. Yep, there it is. That's into turn number 5, I believe. Golly. I will never get past the violence of some of these collisions.
Yeah, I mean, it's just almost max velocity straight into a tire barrier and all the cars that are already at the tire barrier. So that's just nuts. Wow.
Oh,
yeah,
there's Jason
that
Green.
Car's broken.
It is not fine.
It's not fine. No,
it's
not
far
fine,
from fine.
As a matter of fact, I don't think it's drivable.
Yeah, those wheels should not look like that. I am not a mechanic. I think my dad would probably kill me if I decide to become one. No, that's not how a race car should look like. Handling, a little bit askew. Worst part is something like that would probably sell for about 10 grand on Auto Trader here in the city of Philadelphia. Let's take a look at the race results though before we see a driver strike that low gantry on the outside of turn number 5, which. Would that be doing a Sophia Flourish? I think she did that the Macau Grand Prix a couple of years ago. Anyways, Nathaniel Schramm grabs a victory in dominating fashion at the end of this race here on the streets of Chicago. Jason Green finishes in second, with Rupesh Paineni rounding out your podium in third, winning in Spec 2 in the process. Trent Kramer grabs the P4 at the end of the day. Chris Murakami wins it in the Masters category. It's Antonio Reese finishing right in tow in P6, right in front of Rich Meesters in P7. Nice to see your top three in Masters all back to back on your overall finishing results. Matt Thompson finishes in 8th. Alexander Gorson had a good shot at top 5. Drama breaking out late causes him to drop down to 9th. Kevin Adrian rounds out your top 10 with Chris Thorpe in P11, Tom Gradwell in 12th, Steve Saunders in P13, Jason Dunnington in 14th place, Jeff Jacobson in P15, Paul Jackson in 16th. Then from there, we see the drivers who ran into some difficulties and retired from the race. Marcel Gorson had troubles throughout. He finishes in 17th. Jörg Mani in P18. Christoph Van Langendonk in 19th. Scott Russell in 20th. Phil Berry in 21st, with Joshua Wilkie running after 22 cars classified at the end of round number 9 of the Spec Racer 4 Weekend Warriors season. I want to thank all of you tuning into this broadcast and Durkee Stickles for making the broadcast possible. Now, that being said, Charles, I'll pass the mic off to you to get the interviews up and rolling and ask who you want to have a chat with first.
Let's bring in our race winner. Let's bring in Nate Schramm. We'll have a chat with him. Make all the YouTube chat happy. Nate, congratulations on a race victory. Made it look easy today. Got a nice lead early on and just continued to stretch the gap on what I would think is a fairly difficult course for this Spec Racer.
Yeah, thank you. For the most part, it was just head down and try to keep it off the walls as best I could. It's definitely a tricky track, and you got to be paying attention. So, I had 25 laps to just be focused.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we tried to talk about this circuit and what it kind of, we always kind of look for a comparison. It's got kind of a Belle Isle feel, but it's also got kind of a Long Beach feel to it. So, what do you think about the Chicago street course?
Totally agree. Belle Isle tends to be a little bit faster in that first section, but then you get towards the back half of Belle Isle, it gets tight, just like here in the fountain section. So that's pretty similar. And the walls definitely remind me of Long Beach. So try to maximize all your exits and entries, and you take that risk, but paid off today.
Yeah, absolutely. It paid off today. So we'll, once again, I'm sure we'll see you probably next week. I don't know what track we're going to be at next week. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic track after this track today. So I'm sure Ron will yell in my ear here in a minute and tell me. But
oh golly, we're running out the Nordschleife. Oh yeah. No.
Oh well, there you go. I mean,
that'll be fun for the track.
You want to
guide.
talk about a change? You want to talk about a change in culture there from this track to the Nordschleife. We talk about Nordschleife because it's one of those iconic racing circuits. But I tell you what, I've done the race here, the broadcast here with the Spec Racer at that track, and if you haven't done it, you are in for a treat. It is amazing racing, and the last lap coming down the Dottinger is just some of the craziest stuff you'll ever see. So I hope you're looking forward to that as much as I am.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll be my first time ever running there in this car. I've watched a few of Dave Cam's videos on it on YouTube just to do a little bit of preparation. So I got a little bit of an idea, but yeah, looking forward to it. Definitely a complete different type of track, but it should be a fun challenge.
Yeah, absolutely will. It's definitely going to be a challenge for sure. So, Nate, congratulations once again. We'll let you give any thanks. I think you've got a whole host of people in the stream watching the race, which of course we appreciate because we don't like to sit here and talk amongst ourselves to nobody. So, we'll let you go ahead and give your thanks out.
Absolutely. I'd love to thank you guys and thank all my supporters in the chat. It's always good to watch back the videos and see everybody's comments as the race goes on, see how everything went through the timeline. I'd like to thank my team, Three Oceans Racing, and I'd like to thank our sponsors, Turner Machine Development and Gager & Sons Power Systems.
All right, Nate, congratulations. We'll see you next week.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And that right there was Nathaniel Schramm, race winner here at the end. I should have dragged him in to ask another question because there was somebody in the YouTube chat that wanted us to interrogate him about rocket boosters on his car. Somebody saying that it was not a legitimate win. So wonder if we'll have to ask him come time for the Nordschleife if he does have nitrous in that car. We will know for sure if we see a Spec Racer Ford heading 300 miles an hour around there. But let's continue on the interviews and drag in... here's I think what we're gonna do. We'll drag in Matt Thompson into the booth here because it's been a while since I had a chat with him. Matt, welcome into the broadcast booth. Did pretty all right here in this race. I'm looking through. It was P10 for you at the very end and one of the podium spots in Spec 2. How did you enjoy that there in Chicago?
Chicago is a white knuckle track with all the walls. Everybody's spinning into them. It's crazy. It's a wild track.
Yeah, that looked like a nutty race, even in the Spec Racer Fords. I want to ask you about the bumps, because that seemed to be the biggest source of contention, especially off through turn number 6. You know, it is a street circuit, so the bumps should be expected to some kind of degree, but it feels like they're almost like maliciously placed by the racing gods to make it as pain of a hind end as it can be to run around here.
Oh yeah, the bumps here, the downhill into the right in before the fountain, that bump is in the absolute wrong place. It's right where you want to start braking, and if you do, you're just going to lock up. This car seems like loose hands. Just let the wheel run a little bit. Helps with the lock up. For hiding the brake bias that works for you, and just not putting too much pressure on the brakes. I did get one going into the I forget which turn it is, but the angled right-hander, and got into a little bit of a wall there. Locked up a little bit, got that one, clipped it, but it didn't cost me too much.
You know, I think trying to find a race car out there on the circuit without any damage is about as difficult as trying to find a living T-Rex. It still worked out well for you at the end of this race, Matt, and well done on the P8 at the end of it all. Do want to ask you about the next round of the championship. The Nordschleife in 1 week's time. Is there anything that you could do to try and prepare for that? Because that feels like the ultimate task.
I've driven enough laps on Nordschleife with the 12-hour and the Mustang races we've done there. It's at least I won't be learning the track, so should be a step ahead of a few people. So looking forward to that. I always enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel bad for anybody who has to try and learn the Nordschleife next time out. That sounds like absolute torture. But Matt, thank you for joining us in the booth. And as always, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout-outs before we let you go.
Shout out to Stevie for the league, you guys for broadcasting, Ed and the Frito Sport team for all their support for me over the last couple of years. So that's it.
Well, there you go, Matt. Well, hey, thank you for joining us here in the booth. Well done on the P8 at the end of it all, and we'll probably see you before next week out there on the racetrack for AMS this upcoming Tuesday.
That's the plan.
Yeah, 10-4, man. Nice to see you out there, and we'll probably speak to you soon.
Sounds good.
And that right there was Matt Thompson, P8 finisher at the end of this race. And Charles, I'll pass the mic back off to you to have a chat with Masters winner at the end of it all, Chris Murakami.
Yeah, let's bring Chris in here. Haven't had a chat with him in a while, so that's going to be good conversation. So, Chris, hey, congratulations, Chris, on the Masters class victory today.
Yeah.
P7, I believe, overall.
Fifth, I think.
Yeah. Oh, was that?
I think I got fifth.
Oh, fifth. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, confirmed P5. Sorry about that. I was reading the screen and not remembering where everybody finished. Sorry about that, Chris. So talking about racing, we saw you a few times. You had some pretty good battles, I think, with Alexander Gorson there. But it seemed like that this track just really fought back today, and it was pretty much a war of attrition out there.
Yeah, you just pretty much had to keep off the walls, and I was fortunate enough to do that. I know I was with Kevin, and I got by him, and then I think soon after he got involved with the wall.
Yeah, so he was not the only one. There were lots of incidents, and actually took out a couple of the Masters drivers. Jordan Monty in particular just basically missed the corner and drove straight into the tire barrier. kind of reminiscent of maybe what Turn 8 at Long Beach, where you got two ways to kill yourself, either the inside wall or the outside wall. And this is kind of what it seemed like today, that the walls were closing in on these cars and caught a lot of people out. So it was a well done, well earned victory for you today in the Masters class. And next week we've got we go back to the Nordschleife, so it's going to be we're going to go from a very tight street circuit to a wide open, huge racetrack. I know you've raced there before. I've covered you racing there before. So what are your thoughts about going back to the Nürburgring for next week's round?
So is this the large one? Is this the 6 mile one?
So, yeah.
That one? Right. Well, I'm all right there. I'm not fast. But yeah, well, okay. Hopefully I do okay.
Were you thinking were you thinking or hoping it was a GP circuit?
It just seems like there's some fast guys on that track, and I'm notch off. Yeah, so maybe 5 seconds off those guys or something.
Yeah, it is one of those that 5 seconds sounds like a lot, but when you're talking about 13 miles, it's not really that much of a distance. I mean, once again, I've covered the Spec racers there, and it really puts on a great show. If we have a field of about 30 or 35 cars, it's just going to be, some places it's going to be cars struggling to hang on to the track, and some places it's going to be a draft fest. Especially down that long straightaway at the end of the lap. So I hope you're looking forward to it, because I'm looking forward to it. I actually like the track, so but I'm not driving.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, it'll be fun. It's always everything's a good challenge. The guys are really good.
Awesome. Well, Chris, congratulations again, and we'll let you give any thanks that you want to give before we let you go and get ready for next week's contest.
Yeah, I guess Antonio, he gave me the setup for this one that was real stable. So I was having no issues hitting the wall with my the adjusted baseline, and so this one was real smooth. So that's pretty much why I think I got a 0x. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, got lucky. I did hit it at the wall a few times though.
Well, we'll take those 0x contacts. As long as it doesn't damage the car, we're okay, right?
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Chris, congratulations again. Thank you for stopping into the booth. And we'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll get another good result out of you.
Yeah, hopefully. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you.
And that right there was Chris Murakami, our Masters winner at the end of this race. Round number 9 of the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors did not disappoint Charles, but the Nürburgring Nordschleife next time out. I still feel a little bit bad when I first popped into the broadcast booth. I had to abruptly call out of a broadcast one time. I left you all by your lonesome to do a Spec Racer Ford show at that track. So I feel like I will have to make it up for you at some point there by probably doing a lap guide there by myself. But that's going to be a crazy one.
It is. It's not so bad because the racing is really, really good. It is one of the, I always say it's the most challenging track that a driver will race. It may not be the most prestigious like a Le Mans or something like that, but this is the biggest challenge that a driver will ever have to race is at the Nürburgring on the Nordschleife. And it's fantastic racing. These cars put on a good show. But if you don't speak German and you only know about 5 corner names, it becomes very difficult to call a race there. So, but we got through it. And that was a weird weekend because I think it was a Formula Ford race, Formula Ford's at New Hampshire road course, followed by the Nordschleife in the Spec Racer. So hopefully we'll have a full broadcast booth next week, or I'm going to be the one that leaves. But yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be fun, and always enjoyed doing a broadcast at the Nordschleife.
And a lot of action to look forward to over the next week here on SMB. We've got you fully lined up. XSLR will be returning later on tonight. That'll be at Road America. Looking forward to the return of the Formula 3s after the action at Road Atlanta. That's going to be wild. Yeah, that was actually, it is. Ring. I forgot that the graphics weren't actually updated because we canceled last week for the Super Bowl. I'm meant to produce and commentate that show, so you can tell that I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. Liberty Bell is going to be running at Tsukuba later on tonight as well, so I hope to see you all for that broadcast as well at the Toyota GR86s. American Muscle Series running at Homestead on the A configuration of their Roval. That would be kind of wild. Sim Racers Group F4 action at the Hockenheim Ring SRG F3 at Mexico City. And the next weekend, we have got you fully booked with the Formula V Weekend Warriors running at Alton Park, Spec Racer Fords at the Nordschleife, as I said, and the triumphant return of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors here onto SMB, made possible by somebody I have personal experience covering racing of, both in the Weekend Warriors world and on the Formula Ford official side of things, Frederick Sorley and FilmBill.no. I want to thank Turkey Dickles and Dirk Braun, obviously, for making the Spec Racer Ford broadcast, but I want to throw some love to Frederick Sorley as well, because that is a triumphant return after not being able to cover most of the season over there. And that doesn't even do it for the action that Sunday, as we've got XSLR running that night as well. That'll actually be at Road America. And then you'll also be able to see a Liberty Bell special event. So a lot of stuff to look forward to here on SMB. Gives you a very good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on any of it, because we're going to end off February on such a high note here. We got some amazing racetracks, amazing racing, as is usually the case here on SMB. I want to thank you all for tuning into this broadcast here today. And I think with everything taken care of, all the business and interviews and results and championship points and racing shenanigans on the streets of Chicago taken care of, that will just about do it here. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the broadcast booth, and Guido Marzucchi working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.